As you know, it's been reported that right now Crooked Joe's gone to a log cabin to study, prepare. No, he didn't. He's sleeping now. Because they want to get him good and strong, so a little before debate time, he gets a shot in the ass, and they want to strengthen him up.
And that's President Trump on the campaign trail last night in Philadelphia, once again in another Democrat stronghold. Joining me now with more is Florida Congressman Byron Donalds, who's a member of the Black Americans for Trump coalition. Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Good to be with you.
Tell me about the Black for Trump's coalition and what you're pursuing here. We spoke with a colleague of yours this week, I did, on Mornings with Maria, who said he thinks that you could get 25% of the Black vote. Is that what you believe?
Yeah, I agree with Wesley and his viewpoint. Look, I think right now, if you were going to call votes today, President Trump's support amongst Black voters that are going to actually vote anywhere from 14 to 18%. How you get to 25% is you go through the actual full campaign, get out the vote efforts, direct targeting of media to Black voters, explaining that President Trump's agenda was better for them than Joe Biden's, and then going through how he's going to get America back on track. That's what Black people are looking for today in the United States. No more of the political dogma. It is the actions that come out of Washington. It is the actions of the President of the United States that matters. Joe Biden has been a failure. I believe that 25% is very possible.
Well, are Republicans and the Trump campaign making the case for themselves? The Wall Street Journal recently writes this: how Black voters become swing voters. Democrats have left a leadership vacuum, but Republicans need to make the case for themselves.
No, I agree, and that's the part I'm talking about. That work that the Trump campaign is going to do, I believe, takes you from that 14, 18% area up to the 25% area. Look, during the campaign, you have to go make your case. You have to take your message to voters, and it's indicative of what happened in Philadelphia last night. President Trump is doing that. The campaign is focused, and it's ready to go.
Well, what if you were President Trump's running mate? Do you think the numbers would be higher if you were actually the vice presidential candidate?
Well, look, I don't want to predict that, Maria, but what I will tell you is that stepping into that role, you would have a direct contrast between me and Vice President Harris in terms of policy, in terms of what it means for the United States of America going forward, and how this would help struggling Black families trying to make ends meet, how it would help middle-class Black families in America achieve higher levels of success. And it's not just Black families, it's all families in our country. That's what the American people need. That kind of message, I think, resonates across demographic groups. And what it would demonstrate is that you have Black voters who are shifting in their political thought, are shifting in their politics. I think this November is going to be the opening salvo of, if you will, of seeing that demonstration of movement of Black voters, but a lot of voters in the United States.
Yeah, I saw a couple of tweets from Bo Nickel, as well as others. You had, 4 times NCAA finalist, 3 times national champ at Penn State Wrestling, right behind President Trump. Let's talk about the debate for a second here, Congressman. What are you expecting when the two are up there on the debate stage on Thursday? What should we be thinking about going into this important CNN presidential debate?
Well, I think what you're going to see is obviously the CNN moderators are going to try to do everything they can to go after President Trump to try to get under his skin. I think President Trump, what he's going to do is focus everything back to the terrible Biden agenda: inflation, crime, illegal immigration, foreign policy. I think that's going to be the focus. That's where the American people want to see this debate basically be executed between these two gentlemen. I don't know how Joe Biden's going to defend his record, because he can't. So what he's going to try to do, in my view, talk about January 6th, talk about what happened in Lower Manhattan. But if you get into the Lower Manhattan conviction, that's going to demonstrate the two-tier system of justice that has so many Americans frustrated with what's going on in Joe Biden's America.
Well, look, we're going to show some of these videos later when I speak with Dr. Ronnie Jackson. But the White House seems to be claiming that anytime we see Joe Biden freeze up or forget somebody's name, that it's a fake video. It's a cheap fake. This is the new buzzword: cheap fakes. Your reaction?
No. Well, I think that's Orwellian language coming from the White House. This is 1984 stuff. The truth of the matter is that Joe Biden is not the man he was 4 years ago or 8 years ago. Everybody knows this. And so what they're trying to do is lie, dissemble, and cover up for the fact that Joe Biden cannot go on the campaign trail like Donald Trump is doing right now. He has to be in Camp David for 7-8 days to prepare himself to be in a 90-minute debate with Donald Trump. That does not bode well for a man who says he wants 4 more years. America, this is why we need to change leadership. Donald Trump is prepared. He has done this job before. He will do an excellent job for the United States of America once again.
What about the corruption? Where does your investigation in the Oversight Committee stand in terms of investigating President Biden?
We're still continuing to do our work. We're still subpoenaing, doing subpoenas for additional financial information. Listen, the Biden family, they went through aches and pains to hide this from the American people, to conceal all these transactions, obviously from Congress, but frankly from everybody. So it's taking us a lot of time, a lot of effort to dig out these financial records, but our investigations have not stopped.
Congressman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.